I have to give a big shout out to today's sponsor, Young LA. I wear them all the time. Obviously, if you see me working out on Instagram videos and all that, I'm always wearing their gear. I've been wearing them for long before I was sponsored by them. They make you look good and they make you feel good. And with my code, you can get 15% off when you use code TRUE, TRUE, all block capitals, all one word, TRUE, at checkout. Big love to Young LA. The gear is class. Check it out. Get your 15% off and use my code. Today on the kickoff, we're talking Sandro Tonali's potential move to Arsenal or Manchester United. But first, it's Anthony Gordon's mega move to European giants, one of them, Barcelona or Bayern Munich. And I've got to admit, there's a bit of me that's like, have you actually seen Anthony Gordon play, you guys? Because not really sure what you're thinking here. No, I have to admit, right, if this was a few years ago, I would have been devastated, and I'm going to be very honest with Barca and Bayern fans about what to expect from Anthony Gordon. In the 23-24 Premier League season, he got 11 goals and 10 assists. He was unreal that season. There's been a drop-off since then. That's just a fact. Last season, he got 6 goals, 5 assists. This season, it's 6 goals and 2 assists, and 3 of those goals were penalties. In the last 15 months, he's got 3 goals from open play in the league. There's been a massive drop-off, and yes, the Champions League numbers, I'll get to that. But the best version of Anthony Gordon was a few years ago when he was cutting in off the left-hand side and rattling shots into the bottom corner. I remember that goal against Manchester City. He set the tone for Newcastle matches in the way he would press really high, he would work his arse off, and his pace, his ferocious pace, it made him a real problem because at the time Newcastle was still playing underdog football. Teams hadn't really fully respected us yet under Eddie Howe, and they were still, giving us that space in behind, which Anthony Gordon would expose because he had so much pace. But as teams started to respect us more because we were spending more money, getting better players, they would sit in deeper, which would give less space to Anthony Gordon, which would increase the demands on Anthony Gordon on a technical level because you haven't got all that space to just run into anymore. You got to use your brain. You got to use trickery, skill, technique. And that's where the problem is. Anthony Gordon is a classic Eddie Howe footballer in that he is a raw athlete, but technically, he is not on the level of any of these players that are in these Champions League top scorers list. He isn't up there with them. And when you're playing against low blocks, which ironically Bayern Munich and Barcelona often do, that's where he struggles. Or if he's playing against a fullback who has the same level of pace as him and is quick, that's where he struggles. If you can match him for pace, he's fucked. I'm not saying he's a bad footballer. He's not. But he has limitations. And limitations that you just wouldn't expect a player at a Bayern Munich or a Barcelona to have. It's not what they usually go for. Now, maybe with better players around him who can open the game up for him and play him in, maybe it'll go better there. Because that is something Newcastle have very few of, like those tricky players who can open the game up. We've literally got Voldemort, that's about it. And in the German league and the Spanish league, maybe he will get more opportunities. I will talk about that. But the reality is his attitude has changed dramatically in the last few years. And I don't know why. I think Isak leaving, it gave him this feeling of, I'm the man now. And great, that's what we wanted. We wanted someone who would take on the mantle. But the problem was, he wasn't delivering on the pitch. He had all the attitude, all the swagger, and all the self-confidence, but not the actual performances. I'm not saying he was bad all season. He had a few good games, but they were few and far between, and they certainly weren't worthy of a starting place at Bayern Munich or Barcelona, in my opinion. The amount of crap games he had to good games, that's not their standard. It's just not. And there was other moments where, for example, when we were getting beat by Man City, he just looked like he jacked it on the pitch. Just, take me off, I'm done. I remember, I think it was Bilbao. I was there. He had a terrible game against them. He was horrendous. One of the worst performances you could see from a Newcastle player. And he just was like, I'm off, I'm done. Maybe he was injured. Maybe I should give him the benefit of the doubt on that. But mentally, I've seen things from him this season that I didn't like. There was a moment against Karabakh. Basically, half of his fucking goals came against this lot. Trippier was trying to get a penalty off him to give to Voldemort because Voldemort had been sacrificed for the benefit of Anthony Gordon. So let's share the love a bit. We're all fucking getting goals here. Fucking hell, we've got 10 of them or something. He wouldn't give Voldemort the penalty. He was very selfish in that moment. Maybe some people say that's elite mentality. Is it elite mentality when he just can't be arsed and wants subbed off though? And maybe he won't do that for a Barcelona or a Bayern Munich, because maybe he'll actually have respect for the club and actually want to be a team player there. But he literally viewed Newcastle as nothing more than a stepping stone this season. And that's what made me laugh in the way Eddie Howe treated him. Eddie signed a £70 million striker in Nick Voltemora and then just dropped him because he wasn't offering enough pace up front. And Eddie's obsessed with this high press and having pace and what a striker can give you off the ball and rather than on the ball, which is ironically what they're there for. So Eddie Howe sacrificed Nick Voltemora to promote Anthony Gordon to number 9 and our main striker. He gave him the penalties. He gave him massive preferential treatment. And as it was happening, I was like, this is a massive mistake, this, because he's going to go in the summer. And then this £70 million striker that you've got rotting in midfield, you then got to pick up the pieces with this lad and try and convince him that he's now your main man. He should be getting the penalties. He's the one here for the long term. Eddie was just so cowardly and short-term thinking and in panic mode that he was like, let's just do everything and give Anthony Gordon every possible advantage. So he was getting these games against Karabakh. He was able to stat pad beyond belief in this Champions League, which teams are far more open than they are in the Premier League. The reality is the Champions League has opened its doors to a lot of shit teams because it's not the elite anymore. It's now the Europa League and the Champions League, isn't it? So Anthony Gordon had a fucking field day. And actually, he did play well in some of those games because I think he did think this is my chance to shine. Again, selfish thinking. Didn't want to do it in some of the games where, you know, maybe it wasn't on TV, but when it's Champions League, he rose to the occasion at times. But that's not elite mentality, is it? Elite mentality at the Bayern Munichs and the Barcelonas is every fucking game we play, every team we play, we show up. And he doesn't have that, in my opinion. 3 goals from open play in 15 months. Says that. And I think it's hilarious that Eddie, you know, gave him the special treatment that he did, and now Eddie's been left holding his dick at the end of the day. And that's probably why Eddie didn't give him a goodbye at the end of the season. You know, he could have subbed him on and let him have his moment with the fans, because ultimately Anthony Gordon has done a good term for Newcastle United. But I think Eddie probably felt a bit betrayed, and clearly there's been issues there, because Eddie always gave Anthony Gordon everything he wanted. So for him not to give him that goodbye and finally show a little bit of strength against Anthony Gordon, it's like, you're doing it because you feel like I sacrificed other players for your benefit and now you're reaping the benefits and now you're leaving us. You should have seen that coming a mile off, Eddie. I seen it coming a mile off. I said it the whole fucking season. And that's where the short-sightedness of Eddie Howe and the cowardice of Eddie Howe comes in. And this is what happens. Honestly, we should be giving Karabakh about 20% of this transfer fee, man. Fuck me. Yes, he bagged a load of goals in the Champions League. Half of them were penalties, half of them were tap-ins. That's the actual truth of it. And look, I'm torn on Anthony Gordon on how it's going to go for him at a top club. Like, will he rise to the challenge or will he be swallowed by it? He'll probably do okay in the German or Spanish league, because I think the Premier League is so athletic, and it cancels out his advantage. And that's probably why in the Champions League, he did have some moments where teams just couldn't live with him. But honestly, I'm not sad to see him go. And that's a shame, really, because he was amazing at one point for us. But I think his ego and his selfishness, it took away from the team rather than adding to the side. I actually think Nick Voltemora technically is twice the player he is. I mean, if not more. And it's funny because I look at Lewandowski, you know, finishing up at Barcelona, Harry Kane getting older. He would be the signing for them if I was there. The technical ability he has to unlock teams in low blocks, the players that they could have around him, that's the player that they actually should be signing. And I just wish that Anthony Gordon leaving would mean that Nick Voltemora would be played up front for Newcastle and given that chance that he should have been given, that support he should have had from his manager the entire season when he was sacrificed for Anthony Gordon. But it's not going to, because he's so incessantly obsessed with this pace up front and high press that this isn't going to be what it should be for Voltemora, which is, yeah, no, you're the man now next season. But what it does do is it removes sort of a comfort blanket from Eddie Howe, this thing of like this high press, this like Anthony Gordon. It gave him a way of playing that he was just obsessed with. And I just hope it forces this stubborn bastard of a manager to try and fucking adapt for once in his fucking life. And I think Anthony Gordon knows Eddie Howe a lot. I will give Eddie that, right? Eddie's done wonders for Anthony Gordon's career in making him the penalty taker, in giving him so many games like the Karabakh game, the stat pad. He hasn't done a lot for Newcastle this season, but he helped Anthony Gordon's career out fucking massively. I wish I could say the same for the other Newcastle players, but I'm just baffled by this transfer. The more I'm sitting here thinking about it, the more I'm like, so many bad games he had this season for Newcastle that are just overlooked because of these Champions League goals. And if I'm honest to Barca or Bayern Munich fans, I'll say you're getting a very fast footballer but you're not getting a technically good footballer. His speed will override that at times, but the reality is he's not on your level, in my opinion. But maybe with those technical players around him, it will enable him to get the goals that sort of paper over those technical cracks that he's got. As for Sandro Tonali to Man United or Arsenal, I mean, which one would I rather him go to? Fuck me. Probably Arsenal, to be honest with you. I think it would be hard to watch him in a Man United side. Like, we love Sandro, right? He's a grafter. He's a hard worker. But he's another one, I think, technically massively overrated. And I think, again, he's symptomatic of Eddie Howe's desire to play athletic football. He's a ball chaser, just like Anthony Gordon is a ball chaser. They were signed mainly for what they do off the ball, not what they actually do on the ball. And that philosophy is what I hate. So I'm hoping that Eddie is forced into going away from that sort of stuff, buying more players for what they offer on the ball. And I'm not having a go at Sandro. Like, I think in teams like Man United, where you've got a Bruno Fernandes, or Arsenal, where you've got an Odegaard, for example, Tonali will not have as much responsibility on the ball, and he can just be a dog, right? Go and chase the ball down, give it to a fucking technical player. But I think technically, people think he's better than what he is. And one of the reasons I think that is because he's often compared to Anderson. Man United fans are often going, well, if we don't get Elliot Anderson, we'll get Sandro Tonali. The idea that they're even in the same sentence to me is quite funny. I think Elliot Anderson is twice the player Sandro Tonali is. I think he's on a whole nother level. I think they're not even close. If there's like 20 million you've got to pay on top of Sandro Tonali to get Anderson, Anderson's worth 40 million more than Tonali, in my opinion. Tonali is a ball chaser. Anderson is a conductor of football matches. Complete different levels. Sandro Tonali makes easy passes look impossible. Elliot Anderson makes impossible passes look easy. That's how much I have them apart. And I'm not trying to be nasty about Tonali here. This is just the way I say it. And the fact that we had Elliot Anderson, Eddie Howe chose to sell him before Sean Longstaff, Joe Willock, Almiron. He could have sold them to help with the PSR, but everyone makes this excuse for him. What an idiotic thing to do, man. I think Elliot Anderson's one of the best midfielders in world football now. The numbers don't lie. Do you know what I mean? It's obvious. So for both clubs, I'm like, yeah, I get why you like Tonali. He's an effective footballer, but his passing is sometimes garbage. I mean, is he going to create anything for you? Is he going to do anything on the ball? Not really. He might score you a long ranger every now and then, but like, what's that, 1 in every 20 shots he has? I don't know. He's not an Anderson. He's not a Caicedo. He's not a Declan Rice. He's not that caliber. But give us 80 million for him, please. I just think he's overrated, to be honest. After watching him a lot this season, I think the effort's been there. He's been pretty average on the ball. And I'll tell you what, here's something. This is where I really fucking nail it home to where I rate him. Lewis Miley, what is he, just turned 20 years old? Way better on the ball than Sandro Tonali. Way better. He's the one you actually should be signing. He's just signed a new 6-year contract, thank fuck. Lewis Miley, I think, is a better player than Sandro Tonali right fucking now. Kid's 6'4", 20 years old. Technically, he wins all his duels. Technically on the ball, he's fucking really solid. He's the one you should be fucking signing, not Tonali. I feel like I'm doing a for sale fucking video here. I'm not meaning to do that, but I'm just speaking my honest truth here. I think Sandro Tonali had a good season last season, and maybe he can rediscover some of that form where on the ball he was more effective last season. This season, I think he's been trash on the ball, and not enough importance in this Newcastle setup from a negative, cowardly manager like Eddie Howe, where everything's always, how can we minimize what they can do to us, not what can we do to them? That's what frustrates me, is players like Sandro Tonali, and not enough highlighted in, what are you doing for us though? What are you doing on the ball? So look, if you want a good ball chaser who's going to, win the ball back for you fairly effectively, Sandro Tonali's your guy. But ironically, if you're looking at the midfielders Newcastle have had, in Anderson and Bruno Guimaraes, better player than Tonali easily, and now Lewis Miley coming through, better than Tonali. I wouldn't even put him top 3 Newcastle midfielders in the last few years if you're looking at who we've had. But what I will say is, with those effective players that Arsenal and Man United have in their sides with him, he doesn't need to be technically great, because you have players who can open the game up. So maybe in those teams, he'll be way better than what it's been for us this season. And maybe this is just a bad season to judge him on. Maybe I'm being harsh. I'm usually fucking spot on though. So yeah, it's a weird one for me, this, because in losing Gordon and Tonali, I should be gutted if we do lose them. I couldn't really give a shit, because I think they're reflective of a philosophy of football that I actually just don't like. The problem is I have no faith in Eddie Howe to then go out there and replace these players with technically gifted footballers. I don't have any faith in that. So we will be worse off for it, but because I don't trust Eddie Howe. But look, let me know what you think in the comments below. Am I being harsh? Are Man United fans, Arsenal fans, are you excited about the idea of getting a Tonali? And Bayern Munich and Barcelona fans, obviously there's a lot of you out there. What do you think about getting Anthony Gordon? Because the one thing I didn't mention is the fact that he can also play as a striker. I don't think he should, but maybe in those leagues, maybe he'll be actually pretty effective at that. Let's see what happens. Get your comments in, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you on the next one.